Hey everybody, this is Catherine Spires back with another semi-mini episode of Smart Mouth, still talking about Sody Pop. Last week we talked about it in general, and now we're going to talk about two specific kinds of it. You can join Smart Mouth on Instagram at Smart Mouth Podcast, on Facebook in the private Smart Mouth group, and on Twitter at Smart Mouth Pod. The newsletter, also, it's full of contributions from food writers all around the world. That is at smartmouth.substack.com. My guest this week again is my business partner and podcaster, host of Gayest Episode Ever, Drew Mackie.
Hi, I still don't like soda, but here I am again.
Yeah, that's so brave of you to show up again to talk about it more.
I'm the real hero here.
You really are. I mean, I've always said that, but now we know for sure. Okay, here's two that we're going to talk about. The first one, ginger ale.
I've heard of it.
Do you associate it with either airplanes and or upset stomachs?
Both, actually.
Okay. So does ginger ale count as a soda that you don't like, or is it unsweet enough that you can stand it?
It's still pretty sweet. If I am at like a bad bar and they don't have any mixers I like, I will probably have like a gin and ginger ale, and that is kind of okay. But I would never go out of my way to try. It's still too sweet for me.
Got it. Do you know sometimes in bars when they are giving you ginger ale, it's just a mix of Coke and Sprite?
Are you serious?
Yeah, because bars that don't have like individual cans or bottles of mixers and they just use that soda spray, that doesn't have ginger ale in it, generally speaking. So they'll just press both the Coke and the Sprite buttons at the same time. I
am sort of horrified by that. Also, would that taste even approximate ginger ale? That wouldn't taste anywhere close to ginger ale, right?
It's just that layer of sweetness that I think you're looking for in a soda mixer, is my guess. Yeah. It's the kind of bars that you go to when you're not feeling picky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Like college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I also associate it with airplanes. I feel like it was the drink that I always got on airplanes, and it felt special that way when I was a kid. And I also drink it when I get an upset stomach, and yet I still like it. It doesn't make me feel sick. You know how sometimes if you eat or drink something when you feel sick, you will forever associate it with that feeling?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I still like ginger ale. I enjoy it. It is not just medicine for me.
I associate it with being British and classy, but that might have just been really good advertising by the Schweppes people.
Yeah, that is good marketing right there.
Mm-hmm.
We will talk about them. So ginger ale is different from other sodas in that it's a generic name for a product made by many companies. Okay. Ginger ale is made by, it's not like your Dr. Pepper or your Pepsi. It's a generic name. Here's the difference between ginger ale and ginger beer. Ginger beer is actually a fermented beverage. It's been around forever. It's always been low alcohol, and now most ginger beer brands are no alcohol. Ginger ale, on the other hand, is just carbonated water flavored with ginger.
That's it. And sugar, I guess.
Yep. Well, yeah, it has that. And actually, sometimes it would be with like ginger and other little things. And I found out that not all of them have actual ginger in them. Flavors that can pretend to be ginger include honey. That sort of made sense. It's obviously not spicy at all, but it's sweet. Also, pineapple.
I could see that subbing in a way that people wouldn't really notice.
Yeah, I can too. It kind of has the little bit of bite to it, the way that ginger does.
Yeah, bite and zing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so like I said, ginger beer has been around forever, but there was a guy in Ireland, Thomas Joseph Cantrell. He was in Belfast, Northern Ireland. He was working as a surgeon in 1850s, which means who knows what. He claims to have invented ginger ale. He even, on the bottles of it, they had the slogan, "The original makers of ginger ale," embossed into the bottles, which makes me think that he stole the recipe from someone because that's trying too hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, this was an older style of ginger ale. We call it golden ginger ale now. It's darker colored. It's sweeter. It's also kind of more gingery. This we hardly ever see anymore, and we will get back to this style in a moment. But first, we have to talk about new style ginger ale. And the big three brands of those are Canada Dry, Seagram's, and Schweppes. Are we agreed that it's pronounced Schweppes?
I believe that's how they pronounce it on the ads, and the spokesperson was someone speaking with a British accent, so I trust him.
Yeah, of course we do. I definitely have heard people pronounce it Schweppes, and I don't. It's kind of sillier to say it that way, but I do think it's Schweppes.
That's what the Schweppes people, I think, are under the impression of.
Right. So, okay, Seagram's is owned by Coca-Cola. And when I was looking it up online, I saw a lot of distributors refer to Seagram's as being part of Coca-Cola's bar portfolio.
Okay.
Which indicates to me that they are selling it as a mixer, at least on the wholesale level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remembered that at grocery stores, ginger ale is never with the sodas, the soda pops. It's with the bar mixers.
Mm-hmm.
So I must be right.
But it's weird to think about when I think about the kind of drinks that people usually order at bars, I don't often recall people ordering ginger ale, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the world's most popular mixer now. I use it, but I
Yeah.
know for a fact that's because I like my drink sweet.
Right. What, like vodka ginger ale?
No, I do bourbon and ginger ale. I mean, and that is exceptionally sweet. That's outrageously sweet.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever had
Yeah,
that
and-
before. That might not be terrible.
I think it's great. It might be too sweet for you, though.
Mm.
Yeah. I sometimes order gin and ginger ale. Does that sound disgusting to you?
No.
Because I think it's okay. I think it sounds disgusting to a lot of people, but I'm not going to try and defend it. It's just something I do.
I think in college we'd call that a gin, and it was something we enjoyed a lot. But college, what the fuck did we know?
Oh my God. Gin is actually adorable. I
Mhm.
kind of like that. I'm going to try it and see if I get what I think I'm going to get next time I'm in a bar, which could be months from now. So moving on to the next one, Canada Dry. Canada Dry was created in 1904 and became a popular mixer during Prohibition. Maybe this is the roots of why ginger ale is sold in the bar section.
Mm-hmm.
Because during Prohibition, it was a popular mixer at all the speakeasies and whatnot.
Okay.
And it's called Canada Dry. Dry means less sweet. So it's the same thing as like wine and vermouth, the same phrasing.
That I was going to ask, and I've always wondered that, and thank you for telling me.
You're quite welcome. I had always wondered it as well. And the idea of course, it also has a milder ginger flavor, and it was, in fact, created in Canada. So this Canadian, John McLaughlin, who invented Canada Dry, he actually already had a soda water bottling plant, and then he started adding the extracts of it. And 1904 was the first time that he found out ginger ale would be a good one to try and sell.
Okay.
By 1907, it was selling much better than the old style ginger ale. People glommed onto it real quick. And Canada Dry is owned by Dr. Pepper, and Schweppes is owned by Dr. Pepper too. And that company is actually called Keurig Dr. Pepper, as in the coffee pods.
Oh, I did not know those were the same company. That's weird to hear about. Also, I didn't realize that Dr. Pepper would be like the main soda of whatever little beverage empire it was part of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been separate from Coke and Pepsi. And I looked at their portfolio, and they owned 1 million brands. And I really think that there ultimately is probably only one food company in the world.
Yay. Yay.
It's like a pyramid, and I don't know who's at the top, but I think ultimately it's all one. Here's a little fun tidbit about Schweppes. In the 1950s and 1960s, the marketing or the advertising of Schweppes was centered on a made-up county called Shropshire. They devised a coat of arms for it and a language.
Okay.
And the tagline for Schweppes was, "What you need is Schweppes-ervescence."
I don't love that. I really don't love that. What year is this ish?
This was like mid-century, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Okay. Well, I guess it
Yeah.
worked because they're still around, but I don't love that. Someone got paid for that. Someone got paid like probably a lot of money to come up with that tagline.
Some of the things that people get paid for are extremely insulting,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mhm.
So I had mentioned the old-timey, more golden, sweet, more flavorful ginger ale. And like I said, it's very uncommon now, but there is one brand of it that's pretty popular in some areas. It's called Verner's.
This came up, and I still think that is one of the worst names for a product I've ever heard.
It is named after a person. However, while they had originally sold it as Werner's, Werner apostrophe S, in 1959, they dropped the apostrophe out of it. So now it's plural. I don't know why.
Okay.
I can't tell you. I also forgot to mention that I had asked on Instagram what people's favorite soda pops were, and ginger ale was wildly popular. I was actually surprised. Tons of ginger ale answers.
Also surprised by this. Also, Werner's should be a funeral home. I've decided that's what it should be.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you could start it. I don't know. We're all gonna like be reborn in a couple months, right? And you could become a funeral home director.
That would be fun for me. I would be like a weird creepy person, but like necessary. So you have to talk to me because I run the funeral home. But I could be as weird as I want. That'd be great. All right.
That seems like your ideal life.
Yeah, life goals.
One person did specifically request Werner's, and I realized that I could like picture the packaging in my head, but I didn't know what it was, so that's why I picked it. And it might actually be the oldest surviving ginger ale sold in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the fact that we know is true. It was created by James Werner, and he was a pharmacist in Detroit.
Okay.
Now, according to legends about the company, it was invented essentially prior to the start of the American Civil War, because Werner, like I said, was a pharmacist in Detroit, and he had been experimenting with soda flavors. As we discussed last week, this was a very popular thing at pharmacies in the U.S., and he was familiar with a ginger ale that was imported from Ireland and was very popular at his drugstore. But then he had to go serve in the Civil War, and he had left an oak barrel of syrups just sitting there. And it was mostly ginger and vanilla syrups. And he came back 4 years later, he opened the keg and thought it was delicious. And this is the invention of Werner's. However, years later, his son, who inherited the company from him, was just like, no, that wasn't true.
So what actually happened? He just made it one day and was like, okay.
Yeah, he invented it in 1880, so well after the end of the Civil War. The reason we know that is because it wasn't trademarked until 1911, but on the application they said this was invented in 1880.
That's a really weird story to tell because it takes out the agency of the person who actually would have invented it. Like, he invented it. He mixed those flavors together and was like, oh, this tastes pretty good. But for some reason, it seems more marketable to say that, like, it just magically happened. Like, people would prefer, like, a magical accident rather than someone actually scientifically making this up.
Yeah, people really like magical accidents in food product marketing. But I wonder if at the time, 1880, people were still thinking about the Civil War, soldiers were still alive, etc. If like that seemed like a more compelling argument or backstory at the time.
Well, I guess, but when you tell me that he served in the Civil War, my first question is, which side?
Well, I'm sure the North because he's from Michigan.
Okay, cool. But by virtue of the fact that you had to serve on one side or the other, you would potentially be alienating part of your customer base if they found out that you served for the side that they did not support. So I would actually not want to tell people that as a business person, I would not share that I served in the Civil War for that reason.
Interesting that you should bring that up because Werner's is a highly regional product. The initial business model was actually franchises of Werner's outlets. It was in cities in Michigan and Ontario, Canada, and that was it. And then they switched to like just the bottles that you can buy directly, but still, it wasn't until 1997 that it was distributed in 33 states.
Huh.
So it never even went national. And then even now, apparently Michigan accounts for 80% of all sales of Werner's.
Did it ever make it out here to California?
I think I've seen it.
Okay.
I do think I've seen it.
Uh-huh.
Also with the regionalism, they're proud of that. It's not like they're striving, or at least in their marketing, it's not like they're striving to be sold elsewhere. In the 1980s, their slogan in their commercials was, "It's what we drink around here."
That's not bad.
It's a good slogan for a regional product. I also find it incredibly threatening.
It is. I think it's a good slogan because it is threatening. It's like, oh, are you with us or are you not with us? Like, are you actually a resident of this area of Michigan? Because if you don't drink this, you really aren't. And that works on people. People don't want to be the outsider.
They knew that fear would sell, apparently. So that's the basics of ginger ale. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting that it became more popular during Prohibition when everyone was drinking more than ever, because our next subject is Mountain Dew.
Oh, God.
I don't know that I've ever had Mountain Dew.
It tastes like clown piss.
Interesting. Does it taste like citrus flavored clown piss?
Vaguely, but like you know the way like a lemon head candy kind of tastes like citrus, but also not at all because it's been processed to hell and is super fake.
I see.
That's how I feel about Mountain Dew. I don't understand how anyone would like that flavor, but
well, a lot of people do. Ostensibly, it is citrus flavored. For context, its competitors are Mellow Yellow, Surge, and Sundrop.
I've never even heard of Sundrop.
I'm not sure that I have either, actually.
Is Surge still existent? Because I remember that being something that was marketed in like the 90s as being like a boy soda, and I feel like I've not seen a commercial for Surge in a very long time.
I'm not sure if it's still around, but the boy soda thing is a big part of Mountain Dew.
Which is weird because it has such a like pretty feminine, like pastoral sounding name.
Very true.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they overcompensated.
Maybe.
So Mountain Dew was invented in 1940 in Tennessee by two brothers who were specifically looking for a mixer to go with whiskey. They wanted a whiskey mixer, and Mountain Dew is what they came up with. Now, okay, I think that we are all familiar with the term moonshine, right? Mm-hmm. And it's what booze was called during the Prohibition, and people still use it jokingly to talk about homemade alcohol. Mm-hmm. But apparently, at the time, Mountain Dew and moonshine were interchangeable terms, and they were both used equally.
That is fascinating. And also, moonshine, when you think about it, is also a very pretty, naturey sounding, sort of a feminine sounding name for something that is like high alcohol firewater. So that is very interesting.
Yeah, totally. And both terms, Mountain Dew and moonshine, are probably Irish, but they're sort of generally Scots-Irish, and that's how they got to the Appalachia area, is that there were a lot of immigrants, Scots-Irish immigrants to that area, and they carried their language with them.
Okay.
There was even, now Mountain Dew, the drink, wasn't invented till 1940, but there's even a song written in the 1920s called Good Old Mountain Dew. And it, to this day, remains an Appalachian bluegrass classic song. The original lyrics were written by a lawyer while he was in court, and it's all about defending moonshine makers and booze runners.
That is a great story that I assume is made up because it's such a great story, but perhaps it's not.
Oh, no, I even have the song.
Sing it for me so I know what it sounds like.
Down the road here from me, there's a big holly tree where they lay down $1 or $2. Where they drive round the bend and they come back and then there's a jug full of good old Mountain Dew. Oh, they call it that old Mountain Dew, and those that refuse it are a few. I'll hush up my mug if you fill up the jug with good old Mountain Dew.
It has different lyrics now. Some of the lyrics changed, but that was like the original version of the song. And I don't know if both lyrics are still used or what.
Were the lyrics changed to be more or less racist?
Oh, they were never racist.
I not having heard the song and you wouldn't sing it for me, I was just making a guess about most old songs.
Well, yeah, that's a fair guess. So calling it Mountain Dew is a good indication that they weren't ashamed of their, let's say, hillbilliness. And I feel like I'm allowed to say that now because their mascot was Willie the Hillbilly.
Great.
And he lasted for decades, a little cartoon hillbilly. In the 1950s, their ad campaign was all about a drawing of Willie the Hillbilly, and he's yelling. And what he is yelling is, "It'll tickle your innards."
Nope. I don't want that in my innards at all.
And your was spelled Yore, having fun with the idea of people being illiterate.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like to tickle one's innards is like the worst euphemism I've ever heard for getting laid.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah. It's like somehow grosser than rearrange my guts.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like you're in for a very upsetting evening.
Yeah.
Oh, gracious. So that lasted a while, but Pepsi bought Mountain Dew in 1964 and kind of moved away from the hillbilly stuff. Also, Mountain Dew was not originally caffeinated. That was not part of the game plan from the start. But now, Mountain Dew is extremely caffeinated. Caffeine and being caffeinated seems like their whole reason for being, if their advertising is to be believed.
Right. Like, especially in the 90s, like you would drink it so you could like go ride your skateboard good or like do extreme sports. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So they also Mountain Dew comes up with like, I'm going to call them like sub flavors because they will have limited edition sodas that are under the Mountain Dew brand, but they're different flavors. They always have names like Voltage and Amp.
They sound like Axe body spray.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And they partner with sports. Mountain Dew partners with sports and releases these limited edition flavors with, say, motocross, BMX, basically all the extreme sports.
Yeah.
That's who they're in with, them and Red Bull. And then it also releases flavors to tie in with video games. Not any old video games, but video games like Call of Duty and Halo.
That does not, I think I knew that. Those aren't games that I play, but I do have this mental image of like some guy parked in front of his computer screen and like just pounding a giant liter, like a liter of Mountain Dew.
Yes, and I think that might be accurate. There was like, I read something about a computer bug, some malware. It was invented. It didn't have a name, but it was fixed by a guy who was drinking Mountain Dew Red at the time. So now it's called like the Red Bug or something like that. I'm sure I'm getting that all wrong, but it's something along those lines. It seems to be marketed towards like actual extreme athletes and then like couch athletes. Can I call them that? Because you're the video game expert, so please confirm for me that games like Call of Duty and Halo are quite violent.
Call of Duty is a lot of shooting. I've never played Halo. I think it's also a lot of shooting. My video games have talking animals in them. I can't really weigh in on this, but yeah.
Well, I Google image searched those two games and they were both seem to be like monsters in the military.
Okay.
Like aliens and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe less Call of Duty, but definitely Halo. I mean, they're both shooting. They're both all about blowing people up.
I think so. Tweet at Catherine if I'm wrong, but I think Call of Duty is like a war simulation, and they usually set it in like semi-real like conflicts. So you have like a World War II one or like a Desert Storm one, for example.
I see. I get it. Okay.
Could be hilarious. Could be hilariously wrong.
Maybe. I think you're right though. Do you remember when we were in high school and maybe into college, which means 1996 until maybe 2004, people used to say Mountain Dew lowers your sperm count?
I heard specifically that it shrinks your testicles, but even in high school, I kind of assumed that was an urban legend along the same lines as like red M&Ms give you cancer, yellow ones make you gay, you know?
Yeah, and it was because of yellow number 5, which is an ingredient in Mountain Dew.
Okay.
Interesting that you heard it shrinks your testicles, and I actually remember in high school, Mountain Dew lowers your sperm count. That was a thing that boys would say to each other if one of them was drinking Mountain Dew.
Is it true?
And no, it's not true at all. Completely made up. But I think it's really interesting that Mountain Dew related insults have to do with male genitalia.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we're talking about, it's a super aggressively masculine drink now.
It is.
And I wonder if there can't be anything blatantly to do with each other, but it seems weird that overlaps with Mountain Dew.
It does, and I can't explain that. But it would explain why the possibly extinct competitor for Mountain Dew was called Surge, because that was marketed very similarly, but that name sounds very masculine, very active, and that makes a lot more sense than Mountain Dew. I like your theory of maybe they were trying to counterbalance how poetic and beautiful the phrase Mountain Dew sounds. And that was how they decided they were going to get their niche. Also, it is interesting. I never thought about this before, but when I was a kid, the urban legend about M&Ms was the red ones give you cancer, the green ones make you horny, and the yellow ones make you gay. And a lot of people, I think, are not familiar with the yellow M&Ms make you gay urban legend.
I've never heard that before.
But it is interesting that you say that the ingredient in Mountain Dew that supposedly shrank your testicles or reduced your sperm count was yellow number 5. Is that what you said?
Yep.
So there's like some weird correlation with yellow being associated with some form of like reduced masculinity, whether it's like impotent or homosexual. I say this as a homosexual. But yeah, what a weird thing.
Yeah, I guess it was just some story that was invented out of nowhere that yellow number 5 does all these things to you. I don't know. So some people requested Mountain Dew, but I also specifically got requests to hear more about Baja Blast, which is a Mountain Dew flavor. It's technically Mountain Dew Baja Blast. And this was invented just to sell at Taco Bell. It's like a soda drink for them.
Okay. It's not something you can buy in like can form anywhere.
Sometimes you can. Although I think Mountain Dew is only sold in plastic bottles now, but they released it for Taco Bell, and now the way they do all their marketing, you can like buy it in stores like this month only, that kind of thing. But it was created in a lab to optimize the flavor of Taco Bell food. They're meant to go together. They're meant to be an ideal pairing, like a steak and Beaujolais.
Do you know like the chemistry behind it? Like why they think those flavors complement like that particular brand of Taco Bell stank? I'm going to call it stank.
I'm sure I could not describe it. I'm never good at the science side of food stuff. I have no idea. I didn't even bother looking into it because I already know that it scares me. Okay, so according to Mountain Dew, Baja Blast is a Mexican-inspired tropical lime flavor.
Mexico's not tropical, is it? It's not tropical. It's well north of the tropics, right?
There's got to be, I mean, there's the part that's nearest to the Caribbean. Maybe that's tropical.
But that's not Baja. Baja is like by us.
That is such an excellent point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, none of it means anything. All of the copy for Baja Blast is so weird to me. So the tagline for it was a tropical lime storm. Also, are limes, they're not a tropical fruit, are they? They can be grown in the tropics.
They can be, but if they were growing them in England for people to drink on ships, then they were not strictly tropical.
So yeah, a tropical lime storm. And then the tagline when it was first released was dew with a blast of natural and artificial tropical lime flavor.
That doesn't mean
What?
anything. No.
No,
So
it doesn't mean anything.
what citrus do they think is in Mountain Dew? Is that ever identified, or is it just like broadly citrus?
Mountain Dew is, yes, they just said citrus. Citrusness.
There's a lot of things that could be citrus, but okay.
Very true. Maybe Baja Blast is special in that it's specifically lime.
Okay.
It gets its own citrus fruit. A couple years after that, they came up with Baja Blast Freeze, which is like a slushie.
Oh, okay.
You can also get that at Taco Bell. This is long, but as I said before, all of the copy related to Baja Blast is so strange to me. Can I just read what I found on the Taco Bell website?
Yes, I've never been more enthusiastic to hear any other sentence in the world. Go.
Okay, here we go. If your brain is anything like ours, the Mountain Dew Baja Blast Freeze poses an interesting question. What would happen if Baja California, Mexico froze over? First of all, it would be way easier to get a Mountain Dew Baja Blast Freeze all the time, since there wouldn't be any tropical Mexican air to liquefy this awesomely frozen lime Mountain Dew drink. And since we'd all be exclusively drinking frozen things, brain freezes would probably stop being a thing, which is fantastic news for society as a whole. We'd be so used to brain freezes, we'd pretty much forget what they even were and how they feel. Presumably, if Baja California, Mexico froze over, something will have gone seriously wrong in the climate, and the rest of the once tropical Pacific will have also frozen over. Since everyone would be drinking Mountain Dew Baja Blast Freezes constantly, we'd all have a ton of energy to do things like ice skate to Japan. Mid-Pacific waves would make completely bonkers ramps. So a new extreme sport would be invented, and they'll start hosting the Dew Tour on the saltwater ice mountains off the coast of Baja California. Whew, this Arctic permanent winter fantasy actually sounds pretty delicious. Fingers crossed.
Okay, a few things. Number one, that was the rosiest depiction of climate disaster I've ever heard in my life.
I know.
Number two, I think you need to hire an editor. So someone to be like, oh, this is sort of long and weird. We should probably chop it down by at least half. Number three, someone got paid for that. Number four, I can't imagine anyone in the world handing in that. I can't imagine being given that writing sample and being like, yeah, this is good. That's fine. I'm just going to put it up. So I think someone must have put it up on accident, and that's the only explanation I can think for why it's there. Also, someone got paid for that. That is the weirdest thing. Oh, my God.
I have another potential explanation for it, that everybody there is legitimately jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Maybe that makes sense.
Because doesn't it kind of sound like it was written by someone who's extremely on uppers? It's almost all run-on sentences.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my God, and then this, and then we could ice skate to Japan, and it'd be amazing, and there'd be these saltwater mountains, and we do extreme sports on them. Oh my God, are you writing this down? Are you writing this down? I need to be writing this down. Oh my God. Yeah, again.
Exactly.
That's taking me back to college again in a very bad way. And
oh dear.
Yeah, I can't. Could you imagine being trapped in the same room as the person who wrote that? Ugh.
No, I think it would be very tiresome.
Wow.
Yeah. So now we know what Mountain Dew does to you, kids. You better watch out.
Doesn't shrink your testicles, but will turn you into a really hard to be around person who writes very strange copy.
On the other hand, it's a very inexpensive version of cocaine. So that's good. Maybe that should be their new marketing.
Cocaine will kill you. This will kill you less fast, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
So those are the two drinks that we're going to cover today. I'll have more for you next week with Drew, as always. And so that engineer Mika doesn't have to link another audio file to this, I'm just going to cite the sources right now. My sources for Mountain Dew were the Knoxville News Sentinel, the Virginian Pilot, Bloomberg, the Boston Herald, a Mountain Dew fandom site, CNN Money, and as we just found out, TacoBell.com. My sources for the ginger ale section were Tasting Table, Canadian Geographic, Esquire, and what might be my favorite source ever, the Federation of Historical Bottle Collectors.
Wow. Their meetings
Isn't that great?
Yeah. What do you think their yearly meetup is like?
I don't know, but it did have some information on the site. It just says that they are a nonprofit organization supporting collectors of historical bottles, flasks, jars, and related items. And its mission is to encourage growth and public awareness of the bottle hobby.
God bless them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I found it delightful. I like it a lot. Tell people, Drew, where they can find you on social media.
I'm on Twitter at DrewGMackie, Mackie, and you can listen to my podcast by going to gayestepisodeever.com. By the time this goes live, we'll have an episode with Catherine live that we did remotely, and Catherine was our first ever remote guest.
Now, the audio wasn't great, but we still love the episode, right?
The audio, Zoom did not make for optimal audio, I'll be honest, but when I realized that redoing the episode was not really something that would make sense time-wise, I decided that we're just going to go with it. And we have a really good discussion about the sitcom Are You Being Served? And its eccentricities. And if you can get past the fact that it sounds like it was recorded on a Game Boy Advance, then you'll probably enjoy the episode.
And we're all in this coronavirus together. We're all making allowances for remote recordings and all that sort of thing.
Everything sucks now. Why shouldn't audio quality take a dip too?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining this week. As always, Smart Mouth is a production of Table Cakes, a woman-owned Los Angeles-based podcast company. Smart Mouth is hosted and produced by me, Catherine Spires, and engineered by Mika Grimm. Check out all of our shows at tablecakes.com. A Table Cakes production.